Border agents confirm last week 13 migrants tragically died trying to cross the Rio Grande into the United States. Heavy rains and high temperatures now have officials warning folks against crossing the border. Former ICE Director Tom Homan joins us now. This illustrates the risk that these people engage in every time they try to cross the border illegally into the United States. And yet the Biden administration doesn't seem to be doing a lot to address the situation, other than Customs and Border Protection warning after this incident against people crossing in the high heat and the extreme weather.
And this is the only network talking about it. I mean, right now we're closing on 1,300 migrant deaths since Joe Biden became president, 1,300. And that's what we know about. I was down in Brooks County a few weeks ago, and I did a ride along with the sheriff down there. And within 4 hours, we found 2 dead bodies. And I asked him, I said, how often does this happen? He says, Tom, we're lucky if we find 1 in 5. Because by the time they locate them in this dense area, they've either been eaten by animals or they just are never found in the brush. Many in the river we'll never find. 1,300 is what we know about. And that's not including like the tragedy in San Antonio. We had 53 die in a tractor trailer. The numbers are historic high, and this administration doesn't say a word about it. And they want to talk about how humane their policies are. It's not humane when you get over 1,300 migrants dying in U.S. soil, because you have an open border, which causes the most vulnerable people to put themselves in the hands of criminal cartels and make this journey.
Part of the way that you fix the problem is you first admit that there is a problem. The White House seems to deny that there even is a problem with people coming across the border this way. Let's go back to last Monday and Peter Doocy's exchange with Karine Jean-Pierre. Listen here.
If somebody walks into Texas or Arizona unvaccinated, they're allowed to stay. Why?
But that's not how it works. Like, we actually no.
I know that that's not what you guys want to happen, but that is what is happening.
But that's not. It's not like somebody walks over and that's not how.
Exactly what's happening. Thousands of people are walking in a day. Some of them turn themselves over. Some of them are caught. Tens of thousands a week are not. That is what is happening.
Now, a lot of people who are walking across the border are also carrying drugs with them. And there's this big drug bust in a car in Nogales, Arizona. 47,000 rainbow fentanyl pills, which look like Sweet Tarts or Smarties or something like that, definitely designed to attract children, and 187,000 blue fentanyl pills. This is a huge problem. How much are they catching versus how much is getting in?
Oh, they're catching just a fraction. And most of what they're catching is at a port of entry, where every car is stopped. You go through port of entry, every car is stopped, and the officer is going to make a determination if you secondary the car, not and find it. What's happening between the ports of entry, because of what she's ignoring, she says they don't walk across the border. Well, 1.7 did last year, 1.7 million. And this year, mark my word, we're going to be at 2.4, almost 2.5, which is 700,000 more than last year, was the record. And when that many people come across, up to 70%, John, of agents are off the line processing. That causes 70% of the border wide open, and that's when they move the fentanyl across, and that's why we have a record number of fentanyl deaths.
All right, we got a big problem. We've got to see if the White House is going to address this. Tom, always great to talk to you. Thank you.